What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. In this episode, we'll be finally reviewing a home win as Tottenham beat Dortmund 2-0 in the Champions League at the time to go fourth in the table. Now Liverpool have played and won away at Marseille, now fifth. So Tottenham, remind us, at 14th in the Premier League, but fifth in the Champions League. I mean, talk about chalk and cheese and real comparison there. That's a great example. And tonight I've got an excellent panel to join me to talk all things Dortmund and also look ahead to our next game against Burnley, where still manager Thomas Frank, understandably, is under pressure. So let's introduce them. Billie, T, of course, everyone will know on social media. Billie, thank you for your time. How are you doing? Nice to be talking about the win, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you, mate. Good to be talking about a win. Great to be on with a nice panel as well, and looking forward to getting into it.
Should be good. Billie, thank you for your time. And, great panel tonight, like I say there. And Martin, thank you as well for coming on. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be on again, and lovely to see Billie on, who I'm a great fan of what he does for the club. So, and lovely to see Justin again and a new face. So, yeah, happy to be on.
No, happy to have you. Yeah, good stuff. And you're joining from Slovakia, Martin, as usual?
Yeah? Yes, that's the case for me. Thank you.
Great stuff. No, thank you very much. Great to have you on. Justin, thank you very much for coming on. Great to have you on. You were on 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. How you been keeping?
Yeah, and I've been good, thank you. Thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to talk about Tottenham. And yeah, is that the same? Seeing Billie here, it's always a pleasure as well, because you do a lot for the club, man. We need a voice to push for a proper change, and you've been doing great work, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We echo those thoughts, myself and the channel, 100%, no doubt. Thank you very much. And Jacob, it's been a little while, man, but great to have you back on the podcast. How have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been good. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, I'm always in and out of the podcast game, and 1 minute I'm all over the place, and then next minute I just go quiet. A lot to do with how Tottenham are playing effectively. A lot of the time I just can't be bothered, but now it's just got to the point where I'm going to take it proper seriously. So yeah, why not start by coming on your show? And nice to meet you guys. Well, I think I've been on the show with Justin before, and it's good to meet you too, Billie and Martin as well.
I tell you, it's great to have you on. So thank you very much. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're new, I've made it easier for you with a new QR code. If you are listening on YouTube, because it's just there above my head, actually blocks the sun of my head, but I won't complain because that direct link takes you straight to subscribe into the channel. It is easy anyway, but for those that struggle and for whatever reason can't find it, click on that QR code by scanning it and it will take you straight there, no doubt, and to all the channel's content. But if you're listening by podcast platform, that's your audio form, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Let's get straight into it then and start with that Dortmund review. For those who didn't see it, the lineup, I mean, it kind of picked itself in many ways with only 12 senior players fit. It looked like less than that earlier in the week, but luckily both Xavi Simons and Archie Gray made the cut. So for Spurs, it was Vicario, Porro, Romero, Danso, Udogie, Gray, Bergval, then Odobert, Simons, Spence, and Solanke. Billie, starting with you, I suppose the only thing of note, well, significant anyway, in this game is not knowing who would play on the left wing. And as we know, we found out it was Jed Spence. Did you expect it to be Spence before a ball was kicked?
No, I did not expect it to be Spence for sure, because it's not something that we've seen before. I know it was doing the rounds on Twitter a little bit, but I think, without seeing that, it would have been a major surprise. Because it's just not something that we've seen before. And I know, obviously, he's been playing at left back a little bit. Obviously, he's a right-footed player. I mean, we barely get to see him at right back ever. But interesting one. That was definitely the thing. That was an interesting thing going into the team. I know, obviously, before the game, there's a lot of stuff about Tell versus Solanke, and I'm a big fan of Tell. But obviously, as we'll talk about, I think he made the right call, and that means we didn't have a left winger. But Spence stepped in. Big call, but worked out well in the end.
It did indeed. Thank you. And Jacob, I mean, Colin Wiley was on the bench, but how much choice did Thomas Frank have? Yes, he only had 12 senior players fit, but can you imagine if Dominic Solanke was on the bench after leaving out Matis Tell, especially when Frank come out and said that Tell would start this game? So Solanke had to start, really, didn't he?
No, he had to start. It's good to see Solanke back because, as much as Richarlison scored a few goals, our strikers ain't great, but I'm a bit different. I don't know. I would love Thomas Frank to fully explain why Tell keeps being chopped in and out, because I get that he's being classed as a striker, but some of the wingers that we've got, the injuries that we've got with Maddison and Kulusevski, I get that if we get to the latter stages, they would want to be included. But I just don't understand how, what goes on in Thomas Frank's head. But again, that's why he gets paid the big bucks and I don't. At the end of the day, I'm not really fussed who plays. I'm not one of these, fans that is religious towards players. I'm not fussed who you play and where you play them, as long as you get the tactics right and I enjoy the football and ultimately Spurs get the result that we require. I'm all right with it. And for once, even though I couldn't jump around too much because I know what Tottenham are capable of, in the end, I enjoyed the win.
That's good. That's what we like. We're enjoying the win. We haven't been able to do for a little while. So, Jacob, thank you very much for that. Martin, on to the game itself, 14th minute. I mean, we got the lead to scoring within a quarter of an hour through Christian Romero. I mean, what did you make of this goal? And Romero, once again, coming up with the goods. They've been Mr. Reliable this season and been, I'd say, our most likely goal scorer, along with Van der Ven.
Yes, our centre-backs are feeding us the goals this season. I think we got quite lucky with it because Wilson Odobel obviously mishits the volley first time round and sort of beats the defender in the air as the ball's in the air and then just thrashes it in. And yeah, again, Romero, I think that's his 5th goal this season. So overall, I think we were already dominant in that first 15-minute period. So we did deserve the goal. And yeah, what else can you say? We got lucky, which we haven't been in recent weeks. So fair play.
Absolutely. It works both ways. Martin, thank you. Justin, coming to you in the 26th minute then, Borussia Dortmund went down to 10 men. It got red carded, and it felt very similar, didn't it, to the Diego Dallo tackle? Of course, we go to the Premier League. The threshold, first, is important to say, is different Premier League to Champions League. It's different in Europe, a lot stricter with a lot of things. Offside, yes, but mainly things like this red card offences, also with yellow cards, but mainly red cards. So for you, do you think that this one was a red card? I mean, it's always going to be clear, wasn't it? The referee goes to the monitor. It's very likely to be the case that he's going to overturn the decision initially not to give him a red card.
Yeah, to be honest, it's one of them challenges that it's not out of malice or anything like that, but the rules are the rules, and if your foot's sticking up like that, and it's dangerous. Like if he would have just trod a little bit different, Oliver's leg could have been broken in that moment. So it makes sense. It's just I wish the same refereeing was in all competitions, so it just wasn't all split up. So it's been like that for years. That you can get away with certain things in the Premier League, but as soon as it comes to Europe, you have to tighten up with your defending and every type of challenge. So it's a shame that it's just not consistent. But yeah, man, what can you do? It was a crazy challenge. What could have been, but I get why he went for it. He just lost the ball and he thought, yeah, let me just get my foot out there and try and stop it. And yeah, but it always looks worse when. But I actually liked how they showed the VAR when I was watching it, or when I was watching the highlights of it. They actually showed it in fast time, slow motion, instead of it's just always the still. Because a lot of times when they just always show it in slow motion, it just looks reckless. But when they show it in real time, a lot of times you can just see it's an accidental movement, but it's still a red card.
Justin, thank you for that. Sticking with you, though, how much, if at all, was it a turning point on the game? Because I think it's important to note that Tottenham were, of course, factually 1-0 up, but I would argue, I don't know if you agree, in cruise control already. So a lot of people look at that, like rival fans in particular, or people that maybe really want the manager out or aren't liking how we're playing, will look at it and go, okay, we beat 10 men Dortmund. I don't think that's, although it's correct, I don't think it's fair to put it like that.
Yeah. It went that was like 25 minutes in, so there is still a long bit of the game. So you can't say it's not going to change the game, the style. But to be honest, I felt like they were still as open as they was when we was running before the man got sent off. The right wing was open, the left wing was open. We was getting pure joy down them sides. He wasn't really causing too much up top. I know Grassi's a good forward, but they wasn't really doing too much. So to say that it fully changed it, yeah, I just feel like we were dominant, and as long as Tottenham don't do the normal Tottenham maneuver and just sit back, I feel like we was going to be scoring more goals. I feel like it probably gave us more of a problem that they had a man sent off, because then that makes Thomas have to retweak it when really we was just running it, and we should have had more goals, to be honest.
100%, I agree with that. Thank you very much. Billy, if I come back to you, it got better, for Tottenham. 2-0 lead in the 37th minute through Dominic Solanke, again assisted by Wilson Odobert. We'll get onto him in just a second. But with Solanke, I mean, it's quite funny how the goal went about, quite ironic. How do you view it? Do you think, what it probably is a lot of luck, but it doesn't matter, does it? It's a goal, and it's strikers breed confidence coming back from injury. I felt they really needed that.
Yeah, it was a terrible finish, but good positioning to be in the right place at the right time, and a really good move as well. I thought Odobert, one of his best games for Tottenham, maybe even his best. And Solanke tried his best to miss, but he couldn't miss that one. I think that'll be massive for his confidence, his first ever Champions League goal as well. And I think having Solanke back is going to be a big boost for us, because we've Richarlison injured and had to have Mawani go up front in the last few games, which probably hasn't worked out. So yeah, big for him, and I think good to get his first start back since the last game of the last season. So big goal for him, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you very much, Jacob. Would you agree that second half Borussia Dortmund did show more fight, but in the end, across the 90 minutes, dominant, generally speaking, for Tottenham, and very deserving of the 2-0 win?
Yeah, it was good, and I think when I was watching it, my daughter was saying, "Why are you not jumping around when Tottenham are scoring?" And even though I was happy that we was winning, my thing was that I've been crying out for Thomas Frank to do this since like November, because what would always happen is we'd go 1-0 down, 2-0 down, even like we did against Villa, and then all of a sudden we start showing this pressing and wanting to score goals and press the opposition. And I'll get frustrated with my son, because it's like, why can't you start the game like that? So for the one time he decided to do it, I was happy that he did it, but it was weird because I knew he was going to do it because his job was on the line. But again, the most important thing is Tottenham. We played well. We did dominate Dortmund, which I was surprised at because they were in good form. However, sometimes you've got to be mindful. Maybe I overthink. I was happy that we beat Dortmund, because regardless, I'll just like get the win, puts us in a nice position regardless of results. But we do have to bear in mind when you take away from it that they just come back from a long season break. They haven't had too many games under their repertoire, when we've had the Christmas where we've had probably too many games. So we've had fitness, and as much as the squad was thin, our players were probably fitter. So I'm happy with the win. Like I say, I couldn't care less if it was 2 own goals, if it was 2 offside goals. We needed that win just to carry momentum, for the club and for the fans, just have an happy day for a change.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for a change. You're right to add that bit. Definitely. Thank you very much. Justin, if I come to you, I mean, individuals I want to focus on after this win. So one being Wilson Odobert, 2 assists in this game. I mean, he's playing a lot better, isn't he, at the moment? What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, much better. He looked like he had loads of confidence. He looked like he knew what he could beat his guy. Again, maybe just because it's the difference of the Premier League, the intensity, and playing in Europe, that might have been the difference. But yeah, no, he played well. Like, it's what I want to see. I want to see him able to beat his guy, get an assist. That's all I ask when you're a winger, and he done his job perfectly. To be honest, there was obviously a couple off touches, a couple bits here and there, but from the performance I see him last have to that, yeah, completely different. That, and I need to see that from Wilson, because right now, no wingers really doing anything. Obviously, Kudos is out as well, so no wingers stepped up to really say, I'm that guy. I'm going to make the fans happy by doing top performances. Even with Spence, how he was playing on the other wing, I was just surprised at how prepared they were to attack without thinking about pass the ball backwards.
Nice to see, Justin. Thank you. Martin, what did you make of Xavi Simons' performance? Because for me, his performance felt significant generally. I mean, on the impact on the game, and in terms of the team, I think he's really involved in the good team display, but also individually, I thought he was good. And he was, encouraging the crowd, playing with a smile. Was that his best performance, or one of his best in the Spurs shirt?
Yeah, him and Odobert definitely ran the show for us that game. I would say that would be one of his best performances. I still look at that Brentford game at home that he proper ran the show that game. I think that he brought what we needed, was just that comfort on the ball, that control on the ball. And I think some of his passing on the day was fantastic. You know, he played with a smile, like you mentioned. Confidence was there where we need it to be. His record against Dortmund has just been fantastic since his Leipzig days. So maybe that was one of the games that suits him against Bundesliga opposition, where they're not so physical like in the Premier League, and he gets more space, more time on the ball. We need him to sort of bring that into the Premier League games and show it there. That's where he sort of struggled against teams that are very physical. But again, some of the fans sort of wrote him off quite early on. I still think there's massive bags of potential in him. So yeah, that's sort of signs of what we can see Xavi Simons do, and he will grow and he'll be a fantastic player for us.
Martin, thank you. Billie, how good do you think Spence was? And again, that's one of our best performances from anyone playing in that left wing position this year, because you've been struggling to get someone nailed down in that position, someone that can play there consistently. I think Spence has made a very good case unexpectedly.
Yeah, I think on a positive note, it was a really, really good performance from him. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. Because obviously now, as we're going to talk about a bit later on, we've just finally announced a left back player, and a new doggy's fit again. So Spence might find himself, on the team. Maybe go Porro at right back, or go Mattel for left wing as well. Because I don't think our left wing options have been good enough this season. I'm a big fan of Tell. I think I'm not been impressed with the way that Thomas Frank has treated him. But I think it'd be good if we had Tell and another option on the left to rotate with, and that could be Spence now. Who knows?
Could be, absolutely. As you said there, we'll get onto the signing of Sousa a little bit later and preview Burnley, all that to come, because since being on air, typical Tottenham, wait all this time and then we go on air and they do announce it. It gives us something to talk about, but we don't get to see the reaction, of course, typical Tottenham style. Jacob, coming to you, I mean, we saw a double pivot in midfield of Gray and Bergvall. Would you say the future of Tottenham, and how do you think they coped in this game? They seem to bounce off each other very well, and we have got some sad news, since with Bergvall, but on this game, I thought they looked good together.
Yeah, future of Tottenham, it all depends, because I've always cried out for the club to see what their intent is. If the club announce that we're a club that are gonna, get young talent, breed them up, and then sell them on or whatever, then they can be the small future of Tottenham. But when you do look at other midfields in Europe or even in the Premier League, there probably is better. Now, one thing I did like about Archie Gray and Bergvall, which I prayed for, was that if you've got them two in midfield and you tell them to press and just run around, because they've got youth, one's 18, the other one's 19. When I was that age playing football, if you put me in midfield and told me to run around and go and get the ball, I would do that. As you get older, you probably pick your battles a little bit better. So, I was happy with that. But like I say, when I saw the lineup, I was like, if we're just going to sit off Dortmund, that's you're asking to get shot in the leg. But because we pressed them, Bergvall did well. Archie Gray, to be honest, he's somebody that I never thought was good enough for Spurs, but he's gradually, working his way towards being a good player. And, sometimes you do forget when you're pissed off that Tottenham are losing that he's only a kid. So he's probably about the same age as you, isn't he, Harry?
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? So sometimes, if all of a sudden I'll put the telly on and use the midfield, I feel sorry for you. But when it's Archie Gray, I don't. So it's one of those where, like I say, I was happy with the performance, and if it's unfortunate what's happening with Bergvall, but if we go into Burnley and Thomas Frank said from now on we're going to press, I'd rather have them two in midfield full stop, because as much as Paulinho's good at breaking up the ball and Bentancur, effectively they're two dinosaurs that if you want to press, you'll be able to break a press easy because they haven't got the speed. Paulinho's okay. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and I do like him. But if we're going to be a pressing team, let's say, and you want someone to press to get mistakes out of midfield to release Xavi Simons on the pivot, then you'd have to be them two for now.
Thank you. And Jacob, if I can stick with you, because when you've been on the podcast previously, just by coincidence, we've spoken about Pedro Porro a lot. And Porro is someone who, of course, playing a lot of games, but as a result has maybe experienced a bit of fatigue and a bit of criticism for sure along the way. He got man of the match, though, in this game. Were you surprised to see him get man of the match with other performers, or do you think he deserved it?
If it was my man of the match, it would have been Danso. And I'm not sure if we're going to speak about him, but he's somebody that goes unrecognised, because whenever we stick him in, whether it's in a back three or back four, with Van de Ven or Romero, all of a sudden we look a lot more solid. But apparently our best two is Van de Ven and Romero. So I'd give it to him. But Pedro Porro did do well, especially when when they went down to 10 men. And credit to Thomas Frank. You know, I was saying if you just get Pedro Porro released a lot, he's going forward. I love the guy. It's just my questions are when we go backwards and you've got a big athletic guy like a Semenyo going up against him, you might as well put me there because he's just going to get rinsed. So yeah, he had a good game. I think my man of the match though was Danso. You know, I'm not sure if everyone agrees with that, but he was solid. And it's probably because we do ship a lot of goals, and whenever he comes in and we don't ship goals, he probably stands out.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Going to go around the panel now after saying that and see who everyone's man of the match is. So, Billie, kicking it off with you. Yeah, we've discussed just a few names there. I think you could pick out really all 11 that performed well. Who would be your man of the match and why?
I do agree with Dan. So I think that's an underrated shout because I think he's been excellent every time that he's been called upon. I'm going to go slightly different though. I think it's out of about 3 or 4 players that you could choose, maybe even 5 because it was that good. But I'm going to go Xavi Simons just because of the way that he played with his ankle as well through an injury and big performance from him. I'm a massive fan of his and can't wait to see him more in the future because I know he's had a bit of a mixed start. A lot of people getting on his back because of his big transfer and that's not the first time he's delivered in the Champions League. So a huge player for us hopefully in the future.
Delivering in Europe for sure, and just like Tottenham, hopefully he can take that into the Premier League and himself on an individual level. Billie, thank you very much. I mean, Jacob, you said there, Kevin Danso. Who gets closest, do you think? If I said GI for whatever reason you couldn't choose Danso, is there anyone that you have as a close second?
Okay, for me, yeah, Xavi Simons. Like as soon as Billie said Xavi Simons, I forgot because he was one person I was clapping for because he had his ankle injury, he was getting stuck in, and that's what I like about him. Obviously, if I'm going to be greedy, you want him to just show that he has got that end product. Because when I've watched him at Leipzig, PSV, and PSG, he's got a lot of goals and assists in him. Now the assists are there. The issue is he's got a front line that probably won't finish their dinner. But if he can take a few chances himself, he had a few shots in the game. To be fair, and the keeper made a couple of saves of him. So, if we can rely on Xavi Simons to get goals and assists like we did with Eriksen, because I don't feel we've replaced Eriksen since he left, then we're in a good place.
Yeah, we'll be absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Man of the match. We spoke about again a few names there. Who are you going to nail it down to?
Well, for me, it was between Xavi and Destiny. I just felt like Destiny's performance, just jumping back in after not playing any minutes, and he was basically playing in the back 3. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed his work just because he unlocked Xavi a lot more. Whereas normally we don't have that balance on that left side. But outside of Destiny, has to be Xavi. Just playing with her ankle, the performance, he gets stuck in a lot more than I expected him to. And I like to see that from our flair players, the ones who people think. Same with Maddison as well. A lot of people think, he's not going to do the extra work because he's one of them luxury players, but he gets stuck in. And that's what I like to see about Xavi. When you're hurt and you're still prepared to injure yourself to try and get a win for your team, I like that.
Yeah, commitment for the badge. We need more of that for sure. Thank you, Justin, for that. Martin, who are you going to give the man of the match?
Me personally, I'd probably give it to Colin Moani. I thought it was fantastic. His cameo. No, I'm joking.
I thought you were being serious then.
For me, it was probably Odegaard, who hasn't been mentioned by you guys. I think you guys have had fantastic shouts and the reasons why. But I just think Odegaard, I've been very critical personally of him. I think that he's been very half-hearted in a lot of the challenges, especially that one against Brentford where Jordan Henderson just outpaced him. That was quite shocking, but he was up for it. He was one-on-one fantastic, got both of the assists for the goals. And also I would throw in Dominic Solanke, whose all-round game was just fantastic with day and night without him. And he really did set the tone for the performance as well. But for me, Odegaard, but the boys give fantastic shouts.
Okay, thank you. I mean, Martin mentioned that was going to be my next point in terms of the two that made cameo appearances off the bench. So we'll start with Kyle Mwani. Jacob, coming to you, did you see that performance from Kyle Mwani off the bench. Is it chalk and cheese than what we saw in the game from Dominic Solanke? And some people will look at the performance from Moani and go, was there a lack of effort there? Is 2 or 3 times, where the ball's gone in the box and he's just not really even competing to get the ball, could just be poor positioning or just poor striker play. But it felt like for Moani yesterday, as well as a lack of quality, potentially a lack of effort.
Yeah, that's how it is. Like when he's played, I always sit there with my son, and it's like Kolo Muani does stuff, and like whether it works or not, he's just like, oh well, don't matter. Do you know what I mean? There's times where we play him on the wing, and obviously one of your jobs, especially in the Premier League, is to track back, and he'll just his man will get put through, and he's just not bothered. He gets to the point where he gets put through, not bothered. It's like, I can't sit there and say he's not trying, but if that's the effort that you feel you're going to put into the team that's trying to win, try and be competitive at least, there's no point. And then I'm hearing noise that he's coming out now and complaining about the minutes he's getting. But the minutes that you're getting given, again, you might as well let me play, because a lot of Tottenham fans would watch me play and go, I probably would be fit enough to run around the pitch. I probably wouldn't even make decisions like he does, but people would see that I'm trying and they'll probably give me half a chance. Whereas with him, he's probably got all the talent in the world, all the skill. He hasn't played for PSG and Juventus for no reason, but at the same time, there's a reason why they got rid of him.
That's true. Okay, fair enough. Billie, with Moani, again, I view it as probably unlikely. I'm sure you do as well. But in terms of terminating Moani's loan, is that something that he should be looking to do, or do you think keep him to the end of the year and then send him back?
Yeah, I think I would terminate his loan immediately if you can. On a positive note, he's shown that he does have talent, and the PSG game and stuff like that. But then on a negative note, he's just seems to have lost it recently. I think now that he's got probably his dreams of being in the France World Cup squad are probably over because they're so stacked. I think his performances and sort of effort have gone down. And if we can replace him with someone, get someone else in, then I'd be all for it, because I think he's lost all commitment to the shirt, and I think that's unforgivable already. And once that's happened, then I think there's no excuses. You've got to go.
Absolutely agree with you on that, Billie. I mean, there's got to have that line, haven't you, that if you're not giving 110%, he just looked disinterested yesterday. Again, that's just how it appears. Doesn't necessarily mean it is that, but that's just how it appeared to me. Billie, sticking with you on a positive note, though, Byfield coming on, for his debut. What did you make of his performance? Because he certainly didn't look out of place, did he, in there? And there was one tackle that I remember quite well. I mean, don't get me wrong, wasn't involved in too much because it wasn't on the pitch for long. There's one that the referee gave a free kick. He wins the ball, in my view.
Yeah, I thought he did exceptionally well, and that was a massive highlight. And I think I've said all along with Thomas Frank, I feel like if you play academy players, it's such an easy win for the fans. Like, it really does help massively with fan connection. At a point where the connection between the fans and the team is completely at a low point at the moment. It's almost disappeared. Thomas Frank has not really relied on any academy players, but I think this shows that they can do a job. 17 years old, coming in, playing out of position as well, mixing up against Borussia Dortmund team, one of the better teams in Europe, and just shows that if you can trust academy players, they can do it. Play them alongside really good players. I saw Kevin Danso was helping in the whole game as well and talking him through it, but it just goes a massive way. Like, bringing them academy players gives such a massive lift to the fans. I'm surprised it's not been done more often. I hope we get to see him more. And obviously, I know he played right back for us against Dortmund. I know he's a centre back normally, but obviously this kid has got a massive future ahead of him, I think.
Billie, thank you very much. Agree with that personally. Justin, do you think that we will see Byfield again this season? And if so, how much?
Oh, boy. Honestly, no. I'd love it, but I just don't think. To be like, if I'm correct, did Brentford have an academy?
No, they got no academy at all.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So it's not in him to have to do that. To now have a world-class academy there to then use the players when you're under so much pressure. Because me and the fans were talking during the game, and I'm saying to him, so we've got all this time, we're cruising, they're a man down. Why haven't we made more subs? Like, we've got loads of youth players. We could just bread them in right now. We could just literally bread them in. But again, we choose not to. And I just don't think that's in him right now. Maybe if he's going to be here for the long haul, then it will be drilled into him a bit more that he has to start using the youth. But it's the easiest way. It's the easiest way to get the fans on your back. Just bring on a youth player. That's all you need to do. And we've got more than enough talent there that we want to see come on the pitch. And again, we've got like a left wing problem. You've got Tylen Thompson there who could just slip onto that left wing and able to help out. But again, we're not going to use the players now. Maybe they're not good enough, but maybe it's just fans like me who overhype them because I want to see the youth come through. But from when I'm watching Dross week in, week out, and I know there's going to be young kids there who will literally run their arse off and do the best they can for the badge, for just being proud to aid them to get that opportunity. Yeah, I just feel like we waste time. Same with Colo. We're bringing him on when we've got Dane there. Like I just still don't understand. I still personally feel he's the best finisher at our club, not the best striker, but actual finisher of the ball. I feel like he's the best one there, and we just don't give the players a chance when there's perfect opportunities to actually do it.
That's a great shout. I mean, personally, I think, refer to the academy rather than, grumble about the injury crisis and play players out of position. Spence, it worked out fantastic, but and I think Porro also done a really good job, in midfield in the second half. But the point is, how's this going to sustain? And then like Spence, I think you can look at it in a positive way that because of injuries, like he's had to play left back and he's done very well there. But I also see the negative in that now when he plays at right back, he just doesn't look the same as he did and doesn't look natural at all to that right back position because we've had to shift him in a completely different area. So I think players in their best position because you've got the academy. Of course, I'm not saying let's throw 15, 16-year-olds in the team, but if there's some that have been on the bench like Byfield consistently this season, I think give more minutes to. But thank you very much for that. And my last question before we do move on from Dortmund and talk about our new exciting signing, which is the left back, talk about all our fullback issues. And, Jacob, I'll give this one to you. Do you think Thomas Frank deserves credit? Of course, we'll get a lot of criticism, moving forward, and also has done so far this season, in particular in the last few days. But do you think he deserves credit, for his side, winning this game 2-0 comfortably, and also the players maybe as well, who definitely, of course, put in a really good performance, and some would say as well took initiative on the pitch?
You've got to give any coach credit because unless you can do the job yourself, it's difficult. So I'll give him credit for getting the result there because I wasn't confident whatsoever. Again, it goes back to me being a little bit, grumpy sort of thing. Like you've waited for your job to be on the line in order to do that. Your job could have been so comfortable. I can think of so many games where if you did that, we would have won. Brentford were asleep. We would have won if we played. We had a bigger squad available. We drew 0-0 and he was happy with that. Crystal Palace, we beat them 1-0. I could have, again, if we played like that, it would have been a lot more comfortable. Aston Villa, if you started that, they rested a few players. You could have easily gone 2-0 up and then they would have brought Ollie Watkins on. So I'll give him credit, but the only way I can continue to give him credit and not start doing the negative videos I've been doing on YouTube, let's say, is if you learn from your mistakes. We're all human. I've got a job. You guys have all got jobs and that. If you make a mistake, you figure out a way of how I'm not going to do that again and you move with it. Whereas I feel with Thomas Frank, granted he got the result, it's only bought him another week, If he goes to Burnley and decides to sit off Burnley and we don't get a result there, all of a sudden it goes from a Dortmund win to you ain't got a job. So I'll always give a credit. I try not to be as negative as I can towards managers, especially Tottenham ones, but at the same time, I'm only going to go by what I see.
Okay. Thank you very much. So Lucas Bergvall, we found out, is out for 2 to 3 months. Martin, coming to you, of course, this is a huge blow and there's serious issues, isn't there, at the club? We just don't know what a short-term injury is. We don't get someone that's out for a week, 2 weeks. I mean, it's literally, Bergvall, you see him limping, you think, okay, this isn't good. Maybe he's going to miss a couple of weeks, I had in my head. But no, 2 to 3 months, and that is at a minimum. I mean, firstly, your reaction to that, but also secondly, it doesn't look good because he's made to limp on for at least 5 minutes. And the more you look at it back, it's an ugly look, really, the fact that he was made to play on by the Tottenham medical team. Of course, I'm sure he would have wanted to, but the players don't always know best in that situation. There's got to be that, I think, authority from the physios. Their job to know, whether the players in the state or not to play. And they just got to say, sorry, Lucas, we know you're desperate to play Champions League and all that. Team's doing well, but you need to come off for your sake of it. So, yeah, your reaction, your thoughts on that as well.
I get your point completely, but it looked to me like it was a contact injury. So, usually at the time it's just a knock and then the player just runs it off. Yeah, apparently on the touchline, Bergvall was trying a few sprints. He was trying his leg and technically the medical staff probably thought that it was just a knock and it'll be fine. So I wouldn't give them too much criticism in this specific situation. With the injuries in general, I actually did an article about it today, sort of discussing why we have so many injuries. And the simple conclusion is, I would say, squad depth, because I think Lucas Bergwall has struggled with injuries on and off this season. And every time he's come back to full fitness, or almost full fitness, he's been chucked straight into the starting 11 due to there being no alternatives to start in his position. So a lot of the injuries we have are sort of reoccurring or due to muscle fatigue, because players like Kudus or Bentancur are being overplayed by Frank. So I think it just comes down to the squad depth, really, that we were competing in 4 competitions, and 2 games a week with the squad depth we have has just sort of caught up to us. So currently that's 8 or 9 players out injured. We'll see about Sarr, how serious that was with the Senegal team that he got ill. So yeah, not ideal, and especially the fact, like you mentioned, Harry, that it's not a short amount of time, is it? It's 2 to 3 months apparently we're looking at. So again, not ideal. The only positive we can say about that is that we have brought in Conor Gallagher, which is sort of a like for like, although we saw Conor Gallagher sort of struggle to gel, which is obviously completely natural, against West Ham. And it's a real shame for Bergwall, because his season has been sort of depleted with injuries. So it's not looking good. We have revamped the medical department this summer after revamping it in the 2024 summer as well. So there have been a few changes there. And I just think it's sort of the squad depth, really, because a lot of players are playing way more minutes than they should be. And if you can't rotate, then obviously the chance of a muscle injury becomes much more likely. Obviously, Bergwall's one was a contact injury similar to Ben Davies, but overall, we're talking the same issues that run in clubs similar to Tottenham, who lack squad depth, and it catches up to them when they play multiple competitions. It's as simple as that.
I agree with you on that, Martin. Thank you. Billie, do you think we need to be more careful when reintroducing players? Because last season, so many times, in particular, the centre backs were brought back and got injured straight away. And Lucas Bergwall, I mean, that's what, 2 or 3 now, big injuries just this season for such a young player, out for such a long period of time. It's not a good look. So do we need to be more careful with that kind of reintroduction?
I think we also just need to buy some more players so that we're not forced into doing this all the time. I think the bigger issue is that our squad is badly in need of more investment at the moment. Like we are, I think we've got about a week left of the window, and our squad is way too short at the moment. We're still scrapping around for bare bones. I know that Sousa and Gallagher have signed, but there hasn't been any transfer link since. And I think, what happens is the manager then forced, it happened last season as well, obviously, manager then forced to have to play players that they are coming fresh back from injury. And because we don't have the squad depth in all areas. I know midfield is a bit of a weird one, because we do have a lot of bodies in midfield, but the quality probably isn't there. We've got like 5 or 6 centre midfielders, but I think we need a bit more quality in there too. So I think we definitely do need to be more careful with injuries, but I think the bigger problem is we have to start signing some more players, because our squad is way lacking at the moment. I think going into the Dortmund game, Thomas Frank said, and on the official website said there was 11 fit first team players. So that's not good enough, and especially when we're in the middle of a window and we don't seem to be acting on it either.
Not good enough. Absolutely. I agree with that. Echo what you say there, Billie. Thank you. And I think as well, you can't build a house with, either no tools or broken tools. That's the way I view it. I see it as often no tools in the situation of Tottenham. But no, thank you again for that and your honesty. But since we have got some positive news, you mentioned there, Sousa. Well, Tottenham have now announced the signing of 19-year-old Brazilian Sousa, who wear the number 38 shirt as well, for those interested. And Spurs have announced it on their social media. The first post was saying, we are delighted to announce that we have reached agreement with Brazil Serie A side Santos for the transfer of Sousa on a long-term contract, and they haven't revealed the contract length, which is interesting. So starting with you, Martin, can I get your reaction to this? A player that previously has been linked to Bayern Munich, AC Milan, is seen as, athletically strong, good ball carrier, quick at covering ground, strong 1v1s, good in these transitions, good at crossing, all things positive going forward, basically. So you excited by this signing?
I wouldn't say excited just yet, because I've never seen him play a single game. I've seen a few compilations and a few opinions on the internet about him, but I've never seen him play. So obviously he's a 19-year-old left back coming through. And sort of goes back to Billy's point that we definitely need to be signing more players in this transfer window, but players that are sort of ready to compete, because with Sousa, it's he's played two professional seasons in 2 football seasons at a professional level. So we'll see how he adapts to the Premier League, because we've got living proof that players coming in from European teams struggle to adapt to the Premier League. So suddenly this 19-year-old left back is going to just suddenly come in and be the next Roberto Carlos. I'm obviously excited we've signed a left back finally, that problem's been addressed, but we should be way more active, and it doesn't cover up how poor at the moment the window's been.
Absolutely. Thank you, Martin. I agree with that. But yeah, you're right to say, of course, a lot of us wouldn't have seen him play. So, we look at things and do analysis, it looks exciting, but, it isn't an established name. Let's just say we've gone young and upcoming once again. But thank you. Justin, how do you view this signing? I listed a few positives there, again, just to pick out a couple that I think could really suit Tottenham. Athletically strong, just from my own analysis. I think, very good at ball carrying and transitions. I don't know if that helps us too much under Thomas Frank, but I certainly think that good crossing and strong 1v1s does. So, along with the things I've suggested, but also if you have any others, what do you think that he can offer to Tottenham that we don't currently have, as well as the obvious, kind of depth in that position?
To be honest, I feel like this gives us a perfect opportunity to now start going through at the back and using our wing backs instead of using fullbacks. Because Pedro Porro further up the pitch makes more sense. Spence further up the pitch makes more sense, because that's what they used to do for their previous clubs. Same with Destiny, him being further up the pitch makes a lot more sense. And then this guy, from the compilations I've seen, it just makes more sense for him to be further up the pitch. And that's what I thought we was going for when we was getting into Kaya. We was keeping Dragerson. I was thinking, okay, cool, we might be moving into that transition of maybe going free at the back, because it would just make more sense. It'd give us more width as well. It'd make our players who actually play as wingers, who are really like inside forwards, would able to let them tuck in a bit more and able to bring a bit more to our game and give a lot more opportunities. So that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm hoping. But who knows, man? Because us and signing Brazilians, we don't get too much luck. So fingers crossed. But how many left backs have we signed who are young, who have turned out bad? That's what I'm trying to think. Because really, all I can think of is Bale, Danny Rose. I can't think of any other young left backs what we've signed, and then they've turned out to just be rubbish. So fingers crossed. That's all I can say.
Yeah, fingers crossed indeed. I'd argue we desperately need leadership, experience, big first team names. And we are, for me, buying from the wrong type of team. Having said that, as much as I want us to focus on now, we can't ignore the future. I think the club seem to think that we're playing in the season 2035, though. I don't know why, rather than 2026. But nonetheless, again, bringing those young players in is still important. Jacob, can I get your thoughts on Sousa from what you've heard, maybe what you've seen? Are you happy that Tottenham are doing business and strengthening in the left back position?
Yeah, obviously you wanted to strengthen, but I lose the term strengthen loosely, because again, I haven't seen him play. I'm not one of these fans that pretends that I've seen him. Like the only time I'd have a bit of confidence is if I still played Football Manager, because that was always a good metric. But yeah, if he turns out to be good, I haven't got a problem with that. But the problem I do have is that you don't know. There's so many left backs out there that you could have bought, and they're good enough, whether they're in the Premier League or in Europe, that you could go and buy, and it will appease the fans and make sure that we can push forward as a club. But when you go, Tottenham do this quite a lot. Justin said he couldn't remember a left back that was young, but I remember one that was youngish, Gilberto, the last Brazilian left back that we bought, and he was atrocious. Do you know what I mean? But he was. I was just like, well, what's this guy? And at the time, I was young, so I was just like, again, I know I keep saying it on this show, but you might as well let me play, because it would have been just as bad. I hope he comes in and does well. I agree with Justin again. The fact that the fullbacks that we've got we should be playing a formation that allows them to go forward. I remember when we played PSG, we had 3 at the back and we had 3 defenders that pretty much said, "You lot go forward," and it worked. And then Thomas Frank since then hasn't done that. So I'm hoping that he goes back to the victories that we've had of significance, nearly beating PSG, beating Man City, where we allowed everyone to go forward and press. If he can stick to that and he fits the bill, which is athleticism and running, which is what you pretty much need to be a football these days, especially in the Premier League, then I'm all right with it. But I'm one of those who'll just give it a chance. It doesn't matter whether we signed him or if we signed, a prime Marcelo. I'll only be happy with it when I see it, working.
That's understandable to give it time and see rather than jump the gun. Thank you. Billy, can I get your thoughts on this signing, where you think, he can really bring, what you think he can bring, I suppose, to this Tottenham side, and maybe areas for him individually to improve on?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I'm all for signing players for the future as long as we've got some other depth there as well. I think the problem lies when you only sign players for the future. So you've got your doggy and Spencer can play there, so I'm fine with this signing. I think it'd be good to see how he gets on. I think he's really highly regarded in terms of the Santos Academy, because obviously they're famous for producing Neymar, and he's one of the, apparently, according to Tim Vickery on 5 Live, is one of their best things they produced since then. So he's really highly regarded, and I think he's an outside chance of making the World Cup squad as well, which would be pretty mad at 19. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing him. I don't know, I haven't seen many clips or anything, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I think just because Udogie is another player that is very injury prone, maybe we might see him quicker than we thought.
You're right, we might see him quicker, but Doggy is back from injury, but it's how long he can stay fit for. Time will tell with that one. But thank you. That's our thoughts on the signing of Sousa. But if we move on then to Burnley, the next game in the Premier League, with the club confirming that Thomas Frank will take training and media duties, both of which have already happened ahead of this game. So he'll be in the dugout, no doubt, for this game. Billy, coming back to you to kick us off, what are your thoughts going into this game? Burnley haven't won since October. I mean, everything points to, a Spursy kind of result here and Spursy performance after beating Dortmund. But do you think we can overcome what will be pushed out from the media that could happen and put in a performance and a result that backs up what we saw against Dortmund?
They haven't won in a while, but they've just come off the back of 2 really good results. They drew with Man United and Liverpool, both of them. So it's not going to be easy. They're definitely going to low block. And, we struggle against that. So we know what we're going to get. And, they're scrapping for their life, as we saw against West Ham. A low block team scrapping for their life. Not very good for us. So I don't think it'll be an easy game. I think we have to win it, though, really. I think Thomas Frank has got to win it. I think the vultures are still out for him at the moment. I think the massive questions about his job. And I think if he doesn't get a win here, or at least a very, very good performance, if he doesn't win it and draws it, then, the knives are going to be out for Thomas Frank, I think, still. We have to win this game, really, because, the West Ham result shows we're in danger. I know the Dortmund result has been a nice little distraction for everyone, but reality is the West Ham result, and we could easily get dragged into a relegation battle if we're not careful. So we have to go and win this game on Saturday.
Absolutely. Billy, thank you very much for kicking us off there. Jacob, if we come to you, what have you made of Burnley this season? Because they are 8 points adrift, but it feels like all 3 teams, including Burnley, I mean, in 2026, definitely Wolves including that as well, are given more fight. Last year, all 3 teams didn't really fight at all. We're down and out pretty much by this stage. But Wolves showing fight, Burnley showing fight, and Billy mentioned there, and he's right to do so, a couple of big results against Man United, which was a draw, and even at going to Anfield and getting a draw as well. But for Burnley, they have to win. Draws aren't enough. So what have you made of Burnley? And do you think they could be a sticky opponent potentially at Turf Moor, fighting for their lives, as Billy said?
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It's like, when you think to yourself, Burnley drew against Liverpool, drew against United. If you look at our performances for the last few weeks, I don't think we get those results. We probably would have lost them both. We would have gone to Anfield and lost. We probably would have played but Man United at home. Even though we drew to them early in the season, we would have lost last week if we played them. So it is a tricky one, because I said this before we played West Ham. I was talking to my mate at work, and I said, if we ain't careful, we'll start talking about relegation. So he pulled out the table. He's like, oh, you're 13 points clear of West Ham. I said, all right. So if we lose that, then what? And he was like, well, 10 points. I said, all right. So what happens if West Ham win their next game, they beat us, and we lose to Burnley? He was like, come on, you still be safe. I said, all right. And then I showed him the next 4 games. United, City, I think it was Arsenal in there. There was a Sunderland in there away.
Newcastle, yeah. There's loads.
Newcastle, Crystal
Liverpool,
Palace, Liverpool. So when I showed him and said, all right then, so if we've lost to West Ham and then we've lost to Burnley, where do you reckon we're making up the points then? And he just looked at me with a pale face. I said, exactly. So don't think I'm chatting rubbish. I'm not, I'm not even going to say the thing about too good to be relegated because, there's teams that have been Premier League teams before. And some people wouldn't even remember, Bolton. Look at Bolton. They was an established Premier League side constantly in European football. No one talks about them, but they had players like Ivan Campo. They had Anelka. So anyone can go down if we ain't careful. But yeah, if going back to Burnley, they're in a dogfight. It doesn't matter. There's games, especially in the Premier League this season, quality don't really matter. If you fight hard enough, you'll probably get a result because it's not exactly intricate football. No one's really playing the nicest football. Like if you got a ticket to a game to watch a football team in the Premier League right now, and they're at their pump, and you want to see some good football, it'd probably be Aston Villa or Bournemouth. Everyone else is playing dire football. So I don't think it's going to be about us trying to play well. I think it's just going to be about who's going to want to win the dogfight a lot more. And I feel that if Thomas Frank just turns up at Burnley and does exactly what we did at Dortmund and just press them and make Burnley feel that they're in a game and force them into errors, they haven't really got any skillful players as such. If you force them into errors and you get Xavi Simons on the ball quickly, we can win the game comfortably, but it just depends whether Thomas Frank does that or not.
Okay, you have to see what happens there. But Jacob, thank you very much there. And see, I'm glass half full, and I kept Pelters for defending Frank. So after West Ham, I just view that as it was non-negotiable to even try and defend Frank wouldn't have gone well. So there wasn't an option. But I look at it and go, we haven't been good enough, but 7 points away from the European places. But again, I suppose you look at it another way, as you say, they're 10 points, from safety. So it depends which way you want to look at it. And I think you have to look behind because Bournemouth and Leeds are breathing down our throat. But the part of me, the optimism, probably the lack of experience in me tells me, come on, we're 7 points away from Europe. We beat Burnley, Frankfurt get that confidence in the Champions League. We have a little bit of momentum going into these tougher games. But reality also tells me that's going to be difficult to get Europe at the moment. Jacob, thank you very much. I mean, Martin, is any serious possibility Tottenham could get, let's just say, dragged into something they don't want to be dragged into, and in meaning, a relegation scrap at the bottom? I mean, we know, of course, a lot more after Burnley, but going into this game, is that something that will be on the mind of Thomas Frank? I would say that's unlikely.
I would say it would probably a little bit because, like Jacob mentioned, if you look at the results in February going into March, some insane results, and with the way we've been playing, I can't see us really picking up too many results. So if Burnley do win, the sort of arrogant side of mine says that we're not in a relegation fight, even if we do, let's say, lose to Burnley, because I think Frank's position would be extremely under threat, and that Dortmund game would go straight out the window. So I look at that and go, I think we are safe. I think you look at the West Ham performances and they lose 2 in a row and how toxic it will get again for them. So judging by the bottom three, how they are playing and the fixtures they've got coming up, technically, we're safe, but you never know in the Premier League. Like Jacob gave the example of Bolton, for example. What Frank should be looking at is mainly the performance, the style of performance, because what he showed against Dortmund is something the fans have wanted to see for a longer period of time, that we actually try and win the game. It was the first time we actually doubled the lead since Brentford. So that's been a long time ago. And yeah, if we get an early goal like we did against Bournemouth and then we just sort of play passive, that whole Frank agenda will get pushed again. And I think that his job will be extremely in danger. So it's more about how he decides to set us up. And interestingly, Burnley also play a back five lately. So could we see the same formation like we did against Dortmund? It'll be interesting to see what Thomas Frank decides to pick. But if he does get the win, then suddenly could we be turning a corner? Maybe. But then again, you look into that fixture list of February and it's not looking good, is it?
Not looking good at all. February is going to be roller coaster, could be going downhill. Let's just put it that way. So an interesting ride that we'll all be on, but it'd be so Spurs, wouldn't it, to go there and get results, hopefully in those bigger games. And then a game like this against Burnley, you just almost worry for Tottenham a little bit more. I'd be worrying if it's at home. Let me tell you that. But being away from home, hopefully we can keep our away form up, because I think we have the second best away form, but I think worst or second worst home form in the league. So complete chalk and cheese, bit like how we are at home in Europe and then at home in the Premier League. Chalk and cheese, nothing's changed in that aspect from last season. Justin, I mean, Martin mentioned there, Burnley, playing a back five. I think it's right to mention that. And also Burnley do shut up shop in most games. They're defensively strong. I mean, if you watch Burnley the last 2 or 3 weeks, so many goal line clearances. Man United's a big one, because United had 33 shots against Burnley, but Burnley just sat back. They could contain that pressure. I know they can see 2 goals, but they could cope with the pressure across the game, generally across 90 minutes. But Burnley can only sit in for so long. If they go behind in a game, they know they have to start not only drawing games but winning games. But does it suit Tottenham, the fact that Burnley will sit back, or do you think it could cost us, meaning that we have to come out and try and break them down?
Well, with how Frank's been playing, nothing suits us if a team's just going to sit back. If a team's got the ball, we're going to be countering, we have more chances. But to be honest, I'd actually match formation with Burnley. I'd just go all out, do the 3 at the back. He's got to have his magical long throws of Danzo there. We've got 3 big centre-backs there ready for every single set piece, what we're going to attempt to create as well. And then it lets us go full on attack. It pushes Mickey up the pitch as well, so he can go on a mad run. It moves our fullbacks all the way up the pitch as well. It just gives us more attacking depth, and then allows him to still be conservative and able to sit back as well. But typical Tottenham, when the pressure's up, this is normally when I'm worried, because this is a pressure game. This is a game we need to win. And so even the Dortmund game, I feel like that was no pressure. We wasn't meant to win that. Dortmund have been playing great, second in the league. All of them big stats. They're the top goal scorers in the Champions League. Like, everything was set for us to get pummeled, and we didn't. No pressure. And I just feel like this is the pressure game where I need to see which Tottenham will actually show up, because really we should be able to beat this team off the park. Just continuously throw the ball in like we always do. We'll get about 10 corners and we'll score at least 2 goals. That's what I'd expect just on a normal day. But I want to see him do something different. I want to see him adopt what he did with the Dortmund game, and look where the fullbacks are actually just going to be up the pitch and just attacking. I just want to see that. That's all I ask. Obviously, I just want to see a win. Performances at the moment, I don't really care about. I just want 3 points. But deep down, I want to see a good Tottenham performance, and I just want to see a nice 5-0 Wave Parker off. I love the guy, but yeah, we need to be getting our points.
Justin, thank you. Some really good points made there, I feel, personally. Thank you. I agree with that, and the whole pressure situation. Pressure on Frank going into Dortmund, but you're right, with little expectation. Whereas Burnley, we lose that, then we know that's not a good for anyone associated with the club, because, a lot of expectation as well as pressure going into it. Let's end then with some score predictions, going in reverse order. So, Justin, beginning with you this time rather than ending with you. Can I get your score prediction? Honest score prediction, this is, by the way. What not we want to happen, but what we genuinely think will happen, knowing what we're like. But yeah, be honest, there's no right or wrong. So, Justin, kick us off.
Wow. Then 2-1 there, minute. Like, deep down, I just feel like it's just going to be a horrible win, and even a penalty or something stupid, to be honest. It depends what lineup he's going to throw out. Has he had his last press conference, as in, so we know everything? Because obviously when I look on YouTube,
yes,
let me see a bit. So it's all out. So can the new left back, has he been registered that he can play that game?
Oh, I'm not sure. See, again, the press conference come before the announcement. So actually, I don't know that one.
Yeah, I doubt it. If he's been signed today, I don't think he'll play.
Yeah, that's what
He'd be registered, but I don't think he'll play.
So this is the thing. I just don't know what he's going to do. Is Basuma going to appear? Is Sarr going to appear? I have no idea what Frank will do these days. So that's why I'm always worried. But yeah, now deep down, because the pressure's on, I just don't think we'll step up. So I'm going 2-1 then.
Thank you very much to 2-1 Burnley. Again, I appreciate your honesty more than any of that. Justin, thank you very much. Martin, can I get your score prediction?
Yeah, I feel similarly to Justin, especially with the history of our club. But I'm going to settle for a draw, because Thomas Frank has earned his money with the away form. So I'm saying 1-1 draw.
We'll draw. Okay, thank you I don't think that's a good result for either team. Not often a draw is disastrous, but for Burnley, they just, again, probably by the end of the weekend, sit in a similar position, 8 points, and kind of going to the Championship, their destination. And for Spurs, I mean, goodness me, P45, I think, for Thomas Frank, that's the way we're heading. So not very good at all, a draw, but we'll have to see. Jacob, can I get your score prediction in this game?
Yeah, I was the same with Martin, 1-1. I feel that, I don't know, I just think I get the feeling we'll go to Burnley and take the lead from a set piece. And Thomas Frank, rather than going for the jugular, which he doesn't do, hence the reason why it's been a long time since we've gone 2-0 up. I just think Burnley will grow into the game. Their fans will grow into it. If I was a Burnley fan, I'd look at Tottenham, and even if they take the lead, I wouldn't be worried. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you're playing, even Man City looking fragile, Arsenal, as much as I hate to say it, even a Man United, there might be a little bit of a sweat on because they're worried about relegation. I just think we'll take the lead, do what we normally do, because whenever we take the lead or score a goal, for about 10, 15 minutes, it looked like Tottenham, it's all about Tottenham, like we saw against West Ham and Aston Villa, but we just don't go for the jugular and the team gets the result. Scott Parker being their manager as well, ex-Tottenham, she's going to be a 1-1 that don't suit either of us.
Interesting. No one predicting a Spurs win yet. Billie, to end with you, can I get your score prediction? Will this change?
I'm going to end on a positive note, just because I'm not massively confident, but I never like to predict a bad result. So on a positive note, I think we'll win 1-0.
Great stuff. That's what we like. So not many predicting a Spurs win. It shows how far we have fallen. But thank you. That wraps us up for this episode of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast in an hour and 1 minute, so 61 minutes to be exact. We've got through quite a lot. We've reviewed the whole Dortmund game and given some brief analysis. We've also reacted to the signing of Sousa, the injury news of Lucas Bergvall, and preview Burnley, our next game in the Premier League as attention shifts from the Champions League to the Premier League. Thank you very much to those listening. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe if you're new. QR code on screen or via the usual ways. If listening via audio podcast platform, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. So thank you all for listening and also for getting involved. Let's go through to my guests now and see if we can find them on social media. Billie, thank you. Where can people follow you on socials? Really appreciate your time, and talk to people as well about Change for Tottenham if you have a chance.
Billie T on Twitter and Change for Spurs on Twitter as well. We're going to be looking at doing some things for the next upcoming matches, because still need to do more in this transfer window. So hopefully, hopefully the club are going to react, because 8 or 9 days left on the transfer window. Got a lot of work to do still, so let's hope that they're going to react to that. But yeah, thank you. It's been a real lovely panel and great to meet everyone. And hopefully, we'll get a nice win at the weekend.
Fingers crossed. And Billie, it's great to have you on, and as a regular as well, once again in 2026. So thank you. Really do appreciate you giving us your time. I know you're a busy guy and do amazing work, as we've said on the panel. So Billie, thank you very, very much. Jacob, thank you very much for coming on a little while, as we said earlier, before you have, but great to have you back on. Where can people follow you on social media? Talk to people about any socials and channels.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter too much. If I'm on Twitter, it's normally because I'm having a nose rather than putting any content on there. My main thing is YouTube. So the one up top, I'm always been in and out, but now I'm committed. So I normally do videos on Tottenham. If you watch the videos, you probably think I'm a moody guy, but it's just because I support a moody club. So if you want to follow that, the one up top, follow that, put the notification bell on that. You'll see I always do reactions after the game. Normally in the midweek, I'll do a skit which is called Only Fools in Tottenham. There's always something stupid happening at the club, so I'll do a little skit on that as well. And yeah, just whenever I feel to speak about Spurs or football, I'll post on there. So I'd appreciate if you could follow and help the channel grow.
Please do, people. Jacob, thank you. Real pleasure, as always. Martin, thank you for joining us from Slovakia. I mean, a good example of what we're all about here at the podcast, getting Spurs fans on from all around the world, from 39 different countries, if I'm not mistaken. In 2025, we had guests on 4. So honestly, great to hear how Spurs fans feel across the world, get a wider perspective. So thank you for your time, and tell people where they can follow you on social media.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter, but I'm not as active because I have a lot of university work, but I have dropped some articles on my website called the Spurs Pursuit, so you can check that out. I've recently discussed Frank's job position and also the reason why we suffer injury crisis almost every European season. So yeah, you can check me out there. And I want to just drop one more fun fact about me.
Cool.
Is so Burnley's goalkeeper Martin Dubravka. He's also from Slovakia, and I've had the pleasure of teaching English to one of his best friends, who was also a UEFA professional referee. So just to drop that in.
Super cool. Absolutely. You got to clutch on to these things and definitely share the story. Martin, thank you. I didn't know that. So that's good to hear. Yeah, Martin Dubravka, I think he's making an impact for Burnley, doing a good job and representing
But not him,
Slovakia.
his friend. Just to
His
make
friend.
that.
He's like, yeah. You're not Martin. Yeah, you don't want to say you went to school with Martin Dubravka. That will, blow up. No, thank you very much for mentioning that. Still, it's good. You've got to claim those type of things. Martin, thank you. And Justin, thank you very much. Talk to people what's going on, because I know you do a lot of content of your own as well, and whether people can follow that and find that.
Thanks for having me again. Always with a great panel as well. You can find me on X, The Right Show, or you can find me on TikTok as well. And I'm normally at every home game, pitch side, block 105, if you want to come by and say hello.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on here, giving me your time, as well as supporting the team in person. And that implies to all of you. Thank you for supporting the club through thick and thin, and supporting myself and this channel. Thank you. And all that's left to say is thank you and a massive come on, you Spurs.